you can no longer hide behind what's going on in your own country and your passport and thinking, oh yeah, the protections that I have in my home country are going to apply over here. Because it ain't always the case, you know. You can't always hide behind the Constitution and say, I got these rights and these rights, because that don't apply once you step on foreign soil.
From sun up to sun up, I'm grinding. Put time in, cause I want that money. I was made to be made, you don't play with my paper, no faking this my destiny. Smart, gotta stay, stash it, I like new bills. Hustling has become a habit that she can't kill. Fuck the silver spoon, Phoenix got a gold touch. Catch me in the room where bitches make their own luck. Looking for a man with $1 billion discipline, cause he understands money is a fickle friend. I'm coming through and my ambition isn't overdrive. Now I don't drink or smoke, but chasing money get me high. I'm a boss bitch, and a god, I'm a grind to my heart quits.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Phoenix Novell, and thank you for tuning into another Musicians on Gigs episode. Now, in this episode, I discuss a chapter in my book, Artists on the World Stage. It's called Culture Shock, and I believe it's chapter 9. I've traveled the world, and I've loved it so much. I call myself the global citizen, because I felt more at home overseas than I actually did here in the States, which is so weird. But I wrote this book because I wanted to teach artists how to actually get gigs international, how to actually acclimate to what's going on overseas, and perform in places where they could actually broaden their fan base. You know, so many of us, we stay connected for so long to our roots and our hometown and what we know and what we become so comfortable with. And it's great. It's great to have people who you know and who love you, support you, and root for you. But I mean, to really make an impact, you want to expand your fan base as much as possible. And social media can do that. You know, it can get your music overseas. It can definitely get people hearing your stuff because of the reach. But to actually go out there and gig and perform, to get those bookings, it's different. It hits different when you get on those stages and when you actually meet people face to face and connect and give them your contacts and make those kind of relationships. Because most of us don't get the opportunity to unless we're signed to a major label or have a single poppin', you know, which is not easy to get. So in this video, I just want to touch on culture and how to prepare yourself for those opportunities if you're lucky enough to get them going overseas. My first gig abroad was actually in Singapore in 2008, and I when I say I loved it, it's an understatement. I absolutely fell in love with Singapore. One of the main reasons is because Singapore, their main language is Singlish, you know, but it's English. So I didn't really have to, I really wasn't lost in the translation part, which gets a lot of people. And so it was kind of an easy transition for me. I got discovered really fast. I got a booking really fast, and they took care of everything. So I was one of the lucky ones, I'd say. My first experience internationally was a great one. It was very good. I had no issues. I got my heart broken a little bit because of my ego, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, it was beautiful. The weather was amazing. Singapore is like an island, okay? There's a lot of Chinese Asians, which is weird because if I say this correctly, the Chinese people that I met there, they really didn't consider themselves to be Chinese, even though they were their ancestors were from China and came over. But there was, I think it was under British rule for a while, if I'm not mistaken. But that's why the dialect and the way they speak is the way it is, because there was a transition between Chinese to UK or British rule, don't quote me, and then to, you know, what it is today. But they have a very, very distinct accent, okay? And they always say la after almost everything they say. It's like, you know, so what are we doing today, la? You know, where do you want to go, la? So cool. My friend Radio actually created a song called La because he was on the gig with me too. So check that out. But yeah, it was really, really cool because, like I said, it was one of the cleanest places I ever been in my life. They treated us so good. They made us feel like they were happy that we were in their, country. And I don't mind rules and regulations. I don't mind, not having to, socialize, in between our sets or whatever. I don't mind that kind of exclusivity. I don't mind rules and regulations. And so I really didn't have a problem with the way it's set up over there and the way they run things, but other artists did. I was on gigs with artists who was just not happy with the way things were. The particular venue that I worked at was called Arena Live, and it was in a very popular nightlife section called Clark Key. And we had a rule where the client who booked and hired us and our entertainment manager did not really want us to be too social with the customers. I love it because it creates that level of mystery. It keeps you, gives you more of that exclusivity, because if people get too close, sometimes if people get too familiar with you, they don't really want to spend their money there. They want to ask you to get them free drinks or whatever. And so the business sometimes is affected by it. Not always, but in a lot of cases it is. And so they wanted to maintain a little exclusivity because this particular club wasn't the only venue on the scene that had international artists and acts. Okay, so I got it. I wasn't, but it was hard because I was 20 in my early 20s, and there was a lot of other artists who was too. And to be treated like a celebrity at that young age or whatever, and be basically singing cover songs, people act out, and a lot of groupies, a lot of people trying to get your attention and trying to hang out with you. And I mean, after a while, you start to think in your mind, I'm a celebrity. So there was quite a few, people who kind of got that mentality that, they were it, they made it. But anyway, there was a lot of, the cool thing about it is that they still celebrated their, a lot of Chinese traditions that they still celebrated and had. Chinese New Year was still a thing there. And, but another cool part about it was that there was a lot of foreigners who came to relocate there and who were working there, who traveled there, on vacations, but also there was a lot of foreigners who were working there. So they also had a lot of the, international holidays that they were celebrating as well. My initial contract was for 3 or 4 months. But they loved me, I loved them, and they extended me for like a year. I absolutely fell in love with this place. So as far as culture shock, it was absolutely, for me, one of the greatest transitions into what it would be like to work internationally. Okay? I think my biggest culture shock came when I went to China. Actually going to do it, and that was my second gig in 2010. Actually going somewhere where they're speaking their native language, and they're not rushing to help you. They're looking at you like you crazy, like, why are you here if you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know how to communicate with me? I'd say for me, one of the biggest things that the best advice I can give anybody who is taking an international gig where their main language is a foreign one from you is to, if you can, when you first arrive, if you can, have a local with you or a foreigner who's lived there for quite some time, who knows where to go, who knows kind of the language, who knows the areas in which you will be safe, who knows and understands the currency, and who can kind of guide you along the way in terms of how to order food, like I said, how to say basic things. You will be more well off. I spent more time just trying to communicate the basic of basic things, because it's not only about understanding what to say. The thing about a lot of foreign languages is that it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. So you could be saying the right phrase, but if you don't say it the right way, they hear gibberish. I don't care how much you try to play something in your ear to say it right, if you don't inflect it the right way, they're going to look at you like, because they're not going to get it. There's so much about the inflections, there's so much about the way that it sounds to them, especially coming from a foreigner's mouth, that will make them understand it. So first of all, they're not expecting you to speak their language, number one. And when you do, but you butcher it, it's almost like, what are we doing? So that is my absolute first piece of advice. Understand, if you can, the importance of having somebody with you in the beginning stages of being there, or limit the amount of time that you spend outside, you know what I'm saying, until you kind of like familiarize yourself with where you're going to be based, familiarize yourself with your immediate area. Luckily for me, most of the time initially I was staying in hotels or 5-star hotels that I also performed at on the site. So I didn't have to go too far. And almost 9 times out of 10, the venues that I worked at, there were more often than not employees that were multilingual. So I didn't have such a hard time. But first getting there and being in the airport and trying to understand the currency exchange and getting taxis, I was ripped off quite a few times when it came to me, because you're thinking in your head how much it is in the States. If you're from USA or if you're from, wherever else, you're thinking always, how much does it cost usually to get to the airport from where I'm staying at home? You can't think like that because you like when I used to, Thailand for an example, when I used to live in Thailand, it was common for it to cost about 400 to 500 baht max, I'd say, to get from the airport to where I was staying. And I wasn't staying, I was maybe about 45 to an hour away, give or take. But that's like $15 in my, in US currency. So if I went by that, I'd have been like, what? Sure, let me give them even more. But over there, that's a lot of money for them, hey, to take this ride from here to there. But the first time I arrived, I think somebody asked me for like 2,500, 3,000. And that's close to, 3,000 is 100, 3,000 baht is, I think, about 100 USD. So for me, I'm just like, all right, 2,000, 2,500, that's about right. So in my mind, I'm just calculating here. And then when I told my friends, they was just like, whoa, they ripped you off. But again, when you're in that mindset or mentality of conversion or converting it always to where you're from and what you're used to paying, because it can be really expensive as hell, especially for me living in LA right now. Coming from the airport to where I'm staying, for real, yeah, it ain't gonna be no $30. It ain't gonna be no $15. So that is number one. Try to get yourself in a position where you're not, like, either you're pre-prepared, you have somebody on the phone who can talk to the driver, or give them the impression that you ain't by yourself alone for the first time. Because look, even though the cost of living might be very low wherever you're going, there are some people who will prey on you and who know what the cost of living is where you're coming from. So they're thinking, well, you used to paying that. What are the chances of me running into you again? You're probably here for, one time and one time only, so why not take advantage? Not all of them are like that, but a lot of people do take advantage and use those opportunities to take advantage of tourists who seem like they lost, who don't speak the language, and who don't seem to be with anybody or know where they're going. Okay, so if you can find a friend, talk to somebody, have somebody on the phone, pretend to have somebody on the phone, so that it looks like you are not just coming for the first time, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, happy to be in a foreign country, that'll definitely set you up on your way. And another thing I want you to consider, whenever you do accept a gig and you're on your way to somewhere foreign, understand the rules and regulations in the culture. Understand their religious beliefs. I detail this very, very, very well in my book, Artists on the World Stage, because there's a lot of things that go into this. You know what I'm saying? Also consider their relationship with your country. This is something that is a big deal, because I remember, look, I've been doing this for over a decade, traveling and getting international gigs. And so I've been in these countries at some points where there were riots going on and they had problems within their own country, within their own, political parties. And you're there gigging and you just like, all right, what are we doing here? You need to know what's going on at home, right? Like, you need to know what's happening there so that you know how, if they're in tension with another country, what are the chances that they could go to war while you on a gig? This is real, right? We in 2023 right now, okay? And all right, we had coronavirus. We got Russia and the Ukraine doing their thing, and we getting involved, but not. So there's a lot of things going on right now. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're putting your life on hold to go and get this bag or whatever, and then you get caught up in something because you didn't even take the time to see or do some research or do your due diligence. It's just unfortunately something that we have to consider, because it could affect our livelihood and what we're trying to do and our safety. All right, so this is another thing to factor in. What is going on there? What's happening within their own people? Are the people happy where they are? Where you going to be staying? One. Number two, are there any problems between the country that you represent and the passport that you presenting and where you're going? Because it's important to know. It's not something you want to find out or consider once you arrive, because when you're there. You can no longer hide behind what's going on in your own country and your passport and thinking, oh yeah, the protections that I have in my home country are going to apply over here. Because it ain't always the case, you can't always hide behind the Constitution and say, I got these rights and these rights, because that don't apply once you step on foreign soil. So it's something that you need to concern yourself with more than anything nowadays. Of course, people want to make money off of you. They brought you over there because they think that you can increase their business. Understand and respect that part. Right? It is about business. They think they appreciate your talent, but they think they can make money off of you. But at the same time, if you come over there disrespecting their culture, and I'm not saying that you have to, if it's a Muslim country, practice, Islamic rituals or, believe in Muhammad or whatever, but you can't do anything that's disrespectful. You have to respect the systems they have in place. If you're not supposed to be out during a certain time and you see that they're following certain rules and regulations, then you have to understand you are a guest in their country. So act accordingly. And I say this to a lot of artists because a lot of us think that, we taking a trip and we getting paid. But listen, all that's nice and cute, but you are in a foreign country, which means that you need to understand what rules and regulations they live by. Because when you're in their country, you're expected to abide by them as well. You don't get no hall pass. That's just not the way it is. And so artists understand that you will do yourself a great disadvantage if you just assume that when you go overseas, things that are the way they are where you're from are going to be honored or the same way. Cultures are vast. There's a lot of differences between people, and a lot of people will come out and love your music from all walks of life, from all cultures. But during the day, when you out in public and when you out there exploring the world, you need to act accordingly. You need to follow their lead, and you need to pay attention to what's going on and inform yourself, or communicate with locals so that you are, abiding by their rules and regulations. Again, I detail a lot more in Artists on the World Stage, and also in the Traveling Singer Survival Guide. That's another one of the books that I wrote that you guys can check out and purchase from my website, www.phoenixnovel.com. But I write these books because there's just so much information that a lot of us artists don't know until we go. And I want to equip as many people as I can, because there's so much talent. There's so many artists who will do great with these opportunities, but you'll get yourself caught up if you don't know things that are absolutely important to know. Some people, if they had known, they would not have had horrible experiences. And that's where somebody like me comes in. Okay, so once again, there's a detailed section about culture shock in Artists on the World Stage, as well as my book, The Traveling Singer Survival Guide. Guys, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns or even topic ideas for the next Musicians on Gigs episode, please don't hesitate to send me a message with your ideas or your questions at musiciansongigs@gmail.com. That's musiciansongigs@gmail.com. Once again, it's your girl Phoenix Novell, and stay tuned for my next upload. Peace.